You along. Let's head down to the feature match area right now to get underway with the next round of GP Madrid. Hello, my friends, and welcome to continued coverage of GP Madrid. We are live out of Spain, and it's great to have you along in the booth. You're with me, Riley Knight, and him. It's Raphael Levy, the French Hall of Famer. Great to have you along, Raf, and great to have you along, revered listener and viewer, wherever you are around the world. Martin User versus Daniel Greifensteiner on your screen right now. Steiner, Raf, earlier on in the big collection names.
So we have Kowalski winner GL from weeks ago. Martin User was a winner of multiple G, and Petr from Czech Republic.
Jeez, you're putting a shame there, being the expert with all the names.
And he was here in all GP winners on the right.
I think they are. Yes, indeed.
So they are playing modern here. Daniel Wright's playing what I believe is Ad Nauseam.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, the old Dark play there, as it doesn't tend to be seen in things like GRIXIS Shadow, so that could be what Cleveland is up against. But Forest Chromatic Star, unless something very silly is about to happen, he looks to be on the old vegan Tron here.
And from what I know from Modern, this is, I think it's a pretty bad matchup for Tron, because it doesn't really have ways to interact that well against Ad Nauseam deck. Even
something like a turn 3 Khan really isn't that good when Ad Nauseam gets it going. User now with an Ancient Stirrings off of that Chromatic Star. 5 cards off the top, an O-Stone amongst them. We can see another star hanging out there as well. Maybe that's a sphere.
And there's no piece of Tron here.
This is an interesting keep for User, because often the Tron decks will just chuck back any hand that doesn't contain at least one Tron piece in the opener.
I think he had 2 Ancient Stirrings.
Okay,
so,
well, that's a reason. That's a reason to try to get there. But User, I mean, playing one of the most consistent decks in Modern, he doesn't seem to be able to find what he's looking for here. An Expedition map. That's not what he wants at all.
Does he have a piece of Tron in hand? No, I think it's a Forest. So this one is in his, yeah, it's in his hand.
So Horizon Canopy now. Going to take one. We may see that Expedition map come out. Or no, another Ancient Stirrings. Okay.
Makes you wonder if he's actually playing Tron.
Oh, well, unless he's playing the Singleton Power Plant there. Looks like he's going to find a Tron piece. There it is. I got the chance to catch up with Martin User, of course, a superstar and a fantastic ambassador for the game. One of your Hall of Fame compatriots as well, Raf. And he, as the limited specialist of this team, was essentially just told, you're playing Modern, mate. So here's the deck. Get used to it. And he just had to kind of take his lumps here, because Kowalski and Sachirik already kind of locked in the formats that they wanted to play. Here's Phyrexian Unlife for Daniel Greifensteiner. And so User just having to sort of suck it up and play Tron.
Yeah, this game is going to go, I think, a little bit one-sided, since Juza hasn't found like his Tron in time. Like, best case scenario, he has it on turn 5. And unless that's Ulamog coming down. Even Ulamog would not actually do so much. So Daniel Greifensteiner has all the time he wants to set up his combo.
And he's certainly doing that there with a Pentad Prism and now a Phyrexian Unlife. Both pretty important pieces of the puzzle here for Greifensteiner, who seems to be doing a pretty good job. Going to see now a Serum Visions. I think he kept that card on top with a Temple of Deceit as well, so he'll be happy to snag that.
So how the combo works, Ad Nauseam combo works, you have 2 cards that makes you pretty much indestructible. You have a Phyrexian Unlife and
Angel's Grace.
Angel's Grace. That make you not lose the game if you have 0 or less life. And you have, if you can cast Ad Nauseam, you will lose life equal to the casting cost of the cards you will reveal and put them in your hand. So you basically put your whole deck in your hand. You discard Cimmerian Spirit Guide, a couple of them or 3 of them, and cast a Lightning Storm. And alongside Lightning Storm, you discard lands. You add energy counters on it, or storm counters.
Charge counters.
Charge counters. And you try to deal at least 20 damage to your opponent.
It is one of the weirdest decks you're ever going to see, because it is so counterintuitive. It's not, it doesn't win with creatures. Well, occasionally you'll see the Simian Spirit beatdown plan in the mirror. But Ad Nauseam is a super weird deck. It's a combo deck, of course, as I'm sure people are probably aware. But all of these cards, Ad Nauseam, Phyrexian Unlife, Lightning Storm, doing really weird things that we don't often see within the rules of Magic.
And you have some other interesting combinations. with Pact of Negations, for example. So when your opponent is playing something too good on his turn, and you don't even have the mana to pay for the Pact on your next upkeep, you can counter the spell, and during your next upkeep, you play Angel's Grace, which says you're not losing the game this turn. So you don't have to pay, you don't lose, and it's a free counter spell.
All sorts of little edges to be gained from this Ad Nauseam deck, and it is a very mana-hungry deck, however. It's trying to cast a 5-drop sorcery in the form of Ad Nauseam. Or is it an instant?
It's an instant.
Sorcery, it's an instant, yeah. It can go off at instant speed here.
They're very important against blue decks because they have a Dispel and can be countered by Dispel.
But that's why we see things like Lotus Bloom in addition to Pentad Prism played here in the Ad Nauseam deck. It looks like Users found another Ancient Stirrings here.
So he has all the pieces of Tron, but he can only play 1 land a turn. So it's going to be a turn 5 Tron with 9 mana open. And it feels like his hand is not going to do much against Daniel's deck.
No, and even a Walking Ballista here, it's not a great threat.
Could be a 4/4.
This is one of the least exciting starts from Tron that we've seen, really, that I can remember seeing on camera at any point, because User just has not found what he wanted. And, you know, Tron players will often say they will mulligan any hand that doesn't contain at least one piece, but obviously User thought, well, with, you know, green sources, with something like a Ancient Stirrings, I'm going to be able to get there. But here we are with Daniel Griffensteiner now going off. So talk us through what's happening here.
So he played Spoils of the Vault to find, I think, his Ad Nauseam. But this is interesting, because if he actually mills most of his cards, if he can't find an Ad Nauseam, I think he called Ad Nauseam. We didn't have the audio. But if he mills enough cards, yeah, that's...
Oh, he's packed it up?
Yeah, he lost because he milled all his win conditions.
Oh, my goodness me. So Griffensteiner there, in attempting to search it, look, and he's looking through to see where it was now. Yeah, there they were, all at the bottom of his library. Because the Spoils of the Vault milled over the cards that he would have needed to actually win that game there. I mean, that's what happens. You play these variance-based decks, and that can be the outcome there. So Griffensteiner...
So just to walk you through what happened.
Talk us. This is just something... What a turn up for the books. Tell us about what's just happened, Raph Levy.
So Spoil of the Vault is one of the tutors of the deck. You use it to find one of the key cards. So you're looking for the key card to win the game.
Yeah.
It's usually either Ad Nauseam or Angel's Grace.
Whichever card you're missing.
Yeah, but you have a lot of them. Usually you have like 4 of each. So you look for one, but if you mill the other part of the combo, if one of these 4 cards, if all of these 4 cards are at the bottom of the deck, that usually means you wouldn't win anyway, because you would need one of these cards in your hand. You need to cast one. So if you need to like draw 40 cards, you're never gonna reach them, and you're gonna lose anyway. So that's one of the one way that they can lose to itself. It's unlikely to happen, but as we've seen, Martin had no.
Yeah.
He had nothing.
No, it's just an absolute free win for Martin User. He can't believe his luck.
Like that was unlikely Martin would win that game. But it happened because the deck can just fizzle.
It just loses to itself sometimes. That's just how it goes. Martin User must be counting his lucky stars here, because that was, I mean, not only does Tron have a bad matchup against Ad Nauseam, Martin's draw was
terrible.
Atrocious. It was terrible. It was a terrible hand, and he just didn't find what he needed. You know, even off the back of those Ancient Stirrings, and as a result, I mean, he'd be sitting there like, what are my outs here? Like, how do I win this game? And Griffensteiner showed him the way.
And the worst thing is that Daniel is playing 2 win conditions in his deck.
Yeah. Lightning
Storm and Lab Maniac.
Yeah.
Laboratory Maniac. So that says if you draw a card on an empty library, instead of losing, you win the game. So he had some of the version, I think, don't actually play 2 win conditions.
No, some of them just play the Lab Maniac in the board, for example. Yeah. So this is, I mean, you know, again, we've talked about this. This is something that happens when you're playing a combo deck that you know, is something of a glass cannon and can lose to itself in this way. And Griffensteiner is not, he can't feel too bad about this, because this is, you know, in the same way that when you discard your hollow ones off of a Goblin Lore, you just can't be too upset about it, because that's just part of playing a deck like this.
But he wouldn't have won like that game, because his key cards were at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
Like he needs one of them to win.
No, but that's what I'm saying. He can't be too upset about having lost that, because that's just the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. But Griffensteiner, obviously, you know, a deliberate choice in making this deck. Perhaps he thinks it's well suited against the current modern format. We've seen the format, of course, change enormously in the last couple of weeks with the addition of Bloodbraid Elf and Jace the Mind Sculptor. Griffensteiner doesn't care about that, though. He's like, no, just give me those ad nauseums.
So the reason why their modern player would play ad nauseum, one of the reasons I see is that against Jund game 1, I'm not. It's probably fine. But they have so much discard spells.
Yeah.
And Jund kind of put a lot of pressure on you on the from turn 3 on. After you discard your whole hand,
yeah,
you have
it's ways to follow it up. Yeah, for sure.
But then ad nauseum has Leyline of Sanctity in the board that really messes up Jund's plans after board.
And can make can do a lot of work against the heavy hand disruption of Jund decks, which also, you know, have a lot of dead removal to board out, although we have seen a trend recently with Jund decks moving back towards Lightning Bolt. And I was astonished, Raph, at the end of the Mox Championship, the Mox series last week, seeing that players were going down as low as 0 copies of Fatal Push in Jund, which to me is astonishing.
Well, it's good to have 0 Fatal Push against ad nauseum.
That's true, and we're seeing with more Lightning Bolts entering the format, that's worse for creatureless strategies who, you know, usually prey on decks, mid-range based decks that are looking to contest the board. And all of a sudden, if instead of holding, you know, a couple of copies of Fatal Push which do nothing, if they've just got bolts that can go to the Domeski, all of a sudden that makes creatureless strategies a lot worse. And one of the reasons to play Jund above something like ABZAN. Griffenstein is going to kick things off now with a Temple of Enlightenment here. It's nice to see these old Theros lands still getting it done in Modern. Very much enjoyed playing them in Standard many years ago, Raph.
I think it's the only deck in Modern that plays them.
Yeah, occasionally you'll get a little spicy one-of Temple in a blue-white control list, but I think they tend to prefer things like Irrigated Farmland. Here's a Nurse's Mine now for user. So he does have at least a start here. I can see a tower in hand as well. Another Temple of Enlightenment for Griffensteiner.
And there's no fast mana on Daniel's side. No Lotus Bloom, no Pennant Prism. He has the rest. He has Friction Unlife and ad nauseum, but no fast mana. So that's... here we go. There's Lotus Bloom.
Lotus Bloom in hand and now an ad nauseum on the bottom.
One of the good things about ad nauseum is that even if they destroy your lands, you can still go off with a Lotus Bloom. If, for example, Martin manages to cast an Ulamog on turn 4, that would be very good.
Yeah, very, very good.
But Daniel can still fire his ad nauseum combo because he would have 3 mana off Lotus Bloom and he can play land.
And there's a different kind of pressure here that that user is putting onto this ad nauseum list because, of course, you know, I don't know how ad nauseum goes against the Goblin Guides of the format. It's a very different matter when you're looking at something like this. But again, Tron just doesn't have enough early pressure to really make an ad nauseum player worry. And they can win through a Khan. Here's into Phyrexian Unlife now for Griffensteiner. One of the other ways for the ad nauseum deck to keep itself alive through a Spoils of the Vault or through an ad nauseum. But not so here, as we see Nature's Claim.
So let's see, can he have the Tron here?
So already got a mine. It looks like a tower, but that is a mine at the top of your screen. That's a mine that's just been tapped. Tower in addition. Looks like we're going to see a Chromatic Star. Immediately cracked away. And I think he did chose a mine. It was the Luna Park mine with the big mouth that's eating the mine cart, I think it was.
How do you call it?
Luna Park? Have you heard of Luna Park?
Oh, yeah.
It's a famous theme park in Australia.
Oh, it's one in France too.
Oh, there's one in France? And do you walk through the big open mouth as you go through
Oh,
it?
no, we don't.
Okay.
This one, yeah.
There it is, yep. Looks like the entrance to Wario's gold mine as well, from Mario Kart. Even got the little guy there.
All right.
Pick up that blue shell. All right, got a Sylvan Scrying now. Floating mana, of course, that Chromatic Star. So user is going to be able to assemble Tron.
No, he's not floating mana. He cast a Chromatic Star.
And then he cracked it and floated mana.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have a mana left.
Doesn't have any mana left. No, but he used the mana from the forest and the star there. So Scrying goes out and...
So next turn you can play either a Karn or a Whimsical Engine. But that would be a little slow. because now Daniel is threatening Ad Nauseam next turn.
Another couple of cards on the top here, and you can see that one of the really important aspects of this Ad Nauseam list is filtering. They really value scry effects. That's why they're playing the temples. They value cantrips and serum visions and sleight of hand, that sort of thing, because this deck really has to hit the right cards in order to go off.
And that's one of the things that we saw in game 1. They play serum visions, they play sleight of hand to put cards at the bottom. So when they play Spoil of the Vault, they have less chances to have the cards they're looking for at the bottom of the library. Well, that wasn't enough in game 1, but that's in theory that's what happens.
So user now with an Ancient Stirrings. He's going to be able to activate Tron or put Tron together here by the end of this turn, you would think. And as I cast my eyes over his list here, Raph, I can tell you he is running threats such as Khan Liberated, obviously, he's a 4 of, 3 Worm Coil, 2 Eugene, the Spirit Dragon, and 2 Ulamog, Cecil Hunger, in addition to 3 copies of Walking Ballista. So all of these colorless threats are very, very useful to have. But of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Khan Liberated is going to come down and chuck some punches about. Look at that, jump on the 1s and 2s and give Griffensteiner a good old pasting. But again, not the be-all and end-all threat that it is in so many other matchups here, Raph.
So it really depends on what Daniel has in hand. If he has Angel's Grace and Ad Nauseam, this game is over. If he only has Ad Nauseam, there might still be a chance for Martin to get back in this game.
Well, let's see how things progress from here.
If Daniel has Phyrexian Unlife and Ad Nauseam, I don't think he has enough mana to cast everything. He would need 1 more mana. So it would be 5 plus 2. That would be 8 mana total to do everything he wants.
So user is going to exile a land here.
Or he can exile a land.
Gemstone Mine.
Which is probably a better ID than just...
So Lotus Bloom comes into play off of Suspend. Here's an Angel's Grace from Griffensteiner.
So he had everything.
And an Ad Nauseam. So he's just got it. Now we're going to be able to see Griffensteiner go off. He's going to draw his entire deck. This will put him to a negative life total. But because, of course, of that Angel's Grace, it means that he isn't going to lose the game this turn. Martin User is going through and confirming that Griffensteiner has all the pieces he needs. So once again, to reiterate, Griffensteiner from here will exile 3 Simian Spirit Guides to float 3 red mana. He'll then cast a Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm has a weird activated ability while it's on the stack. You can discard lands in order to charge it up, essentially, and it will eventually do 20 damage to the dome. Now, the only way that Griffensteiner can really make a meal of it is if he exiles, discards all of his lands, and then Martin User has 1 in hand, but a sensible Ad Nauseam player won't do that, and so we should see User here pack him up because it looks like Griffensteiner has got what it takes. We may see him go through the motions, though. User is going to keep his opponent honest and make sure that he's got what he needs to do it. So 1, 2, and 3 Simian Spirit Guides, and next up is the Lightning Storm here, Raph.
So what Martin was doing, he was checking what Daniel subverted in. So we saw THUZ, 2 of them, I think, 2 copies, 1 Echoing Truth, and I think that's it.
So, Lightning Storm put on the stack thanks to the Simian Spirit Guide, and Griffensteiner is going to discard 8 lands here, so that's a total of 21 damage coming the way of Martin User. And User isn't going to have too much more of a response other than to pack up the cards and go to the next game. So, Griffensteiner giving us a little tour of how that combo there can work, and User will be disappointed that he wasn't able to snatch another victory from the Jewels of Defeat there.
But he's a real underdog in this matchup. So already winning a match or winning a game already is a pretty good achievement.
He's already going around high five all his teammates and everything. Tell him about that time that he got up over the Ad Nauseam player. We can have a look at the sideboards of these 2 players now and see exactly what they're working with in post-board games. There doesn't look to be a whole lot that User can really bring in here. He's looking at a pretty classic Tron sideboard here.
So Nature's Claim, we've seen that to destroy the Pendant Prisms, to destroy Phyrexian Unlife. He also has 3 Thought-Knot Seers that might be able to disrupt Daniel's combo.
Strip a key card away at the right time.
The thing is that it's an expensive Thoughtseize.
It's a very expensive Thoughtseize at 4 mana, and it's not one that is going to come down any earlier than turn 3.
Turn 3 is the earliest it can come up because he's not running Eldrazi Temple like other Eldrazi decks in Modern do, because it's a Tron deck and it doesn't really have room for other lands than the Tron pieces and green sources.
Other options in User's deck are looking pretty bad, really. I mean, we're not bringing in 4 copies of Thrag Tusk. The Relic of Progenitus doesn't do a whole lot. Spatial Contortion is an absolute blank. And Gutshot and Ghost Quarter. I mean, Ghost Quarter as another way to mess with his mana, but even then it doesn't really do all that much because of the basics that Griffensteiner is playing.
He's playing 3 basics. This is the average, I would say. Sometimes they play 1 plains, 1 island, 1 swamp, just to have a little bit of everything. I know when I was playing, other land destruction, that was relevant, but not in this case.
We can move over now to Table A here, and as you can see, it is, of course, standard. Gregor Kowalski and Christian Seibold. Kowalski, of course, hot off a GP win only a few weeks ago. Seibold as well, one of the more careful and measured players on the GP circuit. Unfortunately, not so careful and measured when it comes to selecting his basic lands. All the same, looks like he is on that classic blue-black control with 4 copies, if you'll believe it, Raph, of Azor's Gateway. This is an interesting piece of technology from Seibold. It's not, I mean, it's a card we see every now and again, but he obviously is a huge fan of it.
So Azor's Gateway is like the old school player would call it a Jalum Tome.
Oh yeah,
that was the first of the kind. So it's a 2-mana artifact. 2-mana artifact. You pay 1. You join this card. Is that right?
Draw, and then you draw a card, and then exile a card under it.
You exile a card, and when you have 5 cards with different casting costs, you flip it, and then you get a whole bunch of mana.
Yeah.
You tap it for X mana of any color, and X is your life total.
So, yeah, in this case, if Seibold were to have it right now, he'd be gaining 14 mana with every activation of it. Kowalski, on the other hand, looks to be playing the Sultai energy list, Sultai mid-range type strategy here, which is based on Hadana's Climb. Hadana's Climb, that of course flips into the Winged Temple of Orazca. This card has proven itself as a real powerhouse of standard, and as a result, it is seeing a lot of play in these standard decks moving forward. Right now, it does seem like we have an appeal for a judge call, so we're actually lucky enough to be able to go and head onto our 3rd table, Table C here, all tied up between Peter Suchurek and Tobias Griffensteiner. And my friends, what a pleasure it is to bring you coverage of Legacy. It doesn't happen too often on the GP level that we get to put this sort of stuff on coverage, and so it is our very great pleasure to bring it to you. Let's get amongst it. Peter Suchurek, he's a bit of a blast from the past from him. Looks like he's playing the classic Canadian Threshold list with Nimble Mongoose backing up the Delver of Secrets. And Tobias Griffensteiner, however, on a very different strategy altogether.
So I first thought it was modern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at the cards like, oh, did they mix the decks?
Goblin Guide, Eidolon of the Great Rebel, Monastery Swift Spear,
Lava Spike,
Lightning Bolt. But then we get to the real good stuff. We get to Chain Lightning. We get to Fire Blast.
Chain Lightning is not much better than Rift Bolt, than Lava Spike. In that case,
that's true, but it's another 1 mana 3 damage spell, and I mean this as a burn deck, you'll take every one of them you can get.
However, Fire Blast, that's another story.
Oh yeah,
Fire Blast, common from Vision, 6 mana, 4 damage to any target. However, you can't sacrifice 2 mountains.
Play for free. Typically the last spell you see cast in a game.
Yes.
Goblin Guide for Tobias Griffensteiner is the perfect start for him. And we'll see what Suchurek has to answer this here. I want to talk about some of the technology in Tobias Griffensteiner's board. Hopefully we'll get the chance to talk about the fact that he's got 3 copies of Ashen Rider in his board.
Ashen Rider is it a 3 mana?
Oh, Raph.
Sorry.
Sweet Summer Child. It is an 8-drop, 5/5 flyer that exiles a permanent when it comes into play. And it's playing this, of course, without any reanimation effects, without any way to cheat it into play. It's playing this
against Show and Tell.
Against Show and Tell decks, because you can play that and then exile whatever they put into play. So a very weird inclusion on the face of it, but makes a lot of sense considering that the burn deck has nothing to put into play other than a Goblin Guide or a Monastery Swift Spear otherwise. Here's a Lava Spike going up to Peter Suchurek's Dome, so he's already under siege here as a Lightning Bolt has taken care of that Goblin Guide. And of course, Suchurek playing a classic blue deck in Legacy, playing all the good blue cards, Ponder, Force of Will, Daze, Brainstorm, and what have you. And then as well as things like Gitaxian Probe, Stifle, Dismember as an extra piece of removal, and a Preordain as well, keeping those cards flowing. But really, the hallmark, the centerpiece of this deck is, of course, Delver of Secrets, Nimble Mongoose. These are difficult to deal with, resilient one-mana threats that can steal games once this mana denial plan really, gets into full swing.
So one of the things in Legacy compared to Modern is that players are not playing basic lands. Why is that relevant? That's because the burn deck in Legacy play.
Oh yeah, let's talk
one
about
of the
this.
very interesting spell in Price of Progress.
Price of Progress is just absolutely huge here. So Griffenstein are now playing an Exquisite Firecraft. Now this is a weird card that you would think immediately, it's like, why are we playing? This is not a very good rate for a burn spell, but the really important thing here is spell mastery and the fact that it can't be countered, because so often we will see this sort of thing dazed. We'll see it we'll see a Force of Will pitch to counter something like this. But
so and if he plays
oh no,
what happens if he plays a Fire Blast in response?
Oh, it didn't have spell mastery. Excuse me.
No, it didn't. If he plays a Fire Blast in response, I think it can't be countered because
it's in the bin. Yeah,
I
sure.
don't remember. When does spell mastery work when you?
On the face of it, I think it would check on resolution. Well, that would be my guess, but I'm not a judge, so I'm not sure there.
So he could have. I think he could have played if he had one.
Then he could have sacrificed 2 mountains, got in for another 4. So Chirek now, he's getting in for 4 himself. This Tarmogoyf comes across, and Chirek now with a Nimble Mongoose. So the Nimble Mongoose is perhaps a card that newer players won't be familiar with. It has Threshold, a very old mechanic graph.
All right, the second Exquisite Firecraft.
Okay, this one can't be counted.
I was actually a very big fan of the Mongoose.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. In Standard.
So Threshold it's an old ability. It says that if you've got 7 or more cards in your graveyard, then something happens. And in this case, this 1/1 Shroud becomes a 3/3.
So here we have an invisible interaction on the left side with Wasteland.
Okay.
So why Wasteland is so key in this situation? First of all, it can give the Nimble Mongoose +2/+2 because he would put 2 cards in his Peter's graveyard. If he sacrifices Wasteland on his own land, he would get 6 cards, and if he plays anything else, he would get 7 cards. However, there's another very useful use of Wasteland.
What's that?
If Tobias plays Price of Progress,
oh yeah,
he can sacrifice his Wasteland, destroy his own land, and it take 4 less damage. So while Tobias is relying on Price of Progress to kill his opponent, Peter can just sacrifice his lands and take a lot less damage.
It's funny because you would think Wasteland is a very bad card against a deck that is playing 11 mountains in it, but it's actually going to do Chirek a lot of work here because, of course, for both of those reasons, as you mentioned, because Price of Progress is one of the. I mean, we can talk about Fire Blast and that sort of thing, but Price of Progress is one of the real, haymakers in this Legacy burn deck.
So now Petr has a choice. Does he play more? Does he tap out for a 2-name Nemesis and leave Wasteland tapped? Does he play another land to play the 2-name Nemesis?
Well, here is Griffensteiner now.
Oh, Flame Rift, 4 damage to each player.
So they're both life totals under siege here, and Chirek. I mean, can he push through? Can he push through lethal here?
Well, he has.
He's got it on the board.
Yeah, I think so, doesn't he?
The Tarmogoyf has 4 power.
Oh,
and a Fire Blast. A Fire Blast upstairs for Chirek. He's put to the test and has nothing other than a handshake to offer. Tobias Griffensteiner, who has snatched a victory there very, very handily indeed. Legacy Burn, still a force to be reckoned with in the format. It seems going up against the best in the form of blue-based, mana denial plan or resource denial plan, things like Daze, things like Force of Will, Stifle, and what have you on the back of Delver of Secrets. Not enough to get Chirek over the line, so Griffensteiner picks up a win for his team. And unbelievably, Raphael Levy, unbelievably on the middle table, Martin User has also beaten Daniel Griffensteiner there. So it all comes down to this match between Gregor Kowalski and Christian Seibold here. Looks like this dispute was resolved between these two players, and Rishkar Pima Renegade is hanging out there in addition to, well, not very much else. 3 energy for Kowalski, and Seibold has a lot of lands, which is where you want to be, and seems to have quite a few cards in hand as well.
Yeah, when we left about 5 minutes ago, It was about the same board state.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure a lot of things happen.
So Kowalski now with 5 mana. We're going to see the Scarab God come down. It's
Nope.
going to be a Bristling Hydra. Oh, excuse me. He played the Foul Orchard. So up to 6. And this is a deck of a different stripe when we think of the old Teamer Energy days. This is a different deck altogether because, again, it has a much more aggressive bent thanks to things like Hadana's Climb. And Glintsleeve Siphoner is a great way to gain early card advantage in addition to things like Jade Light Ranger. And, of course, Vraska's Contempt, the All-Star, standard All-Star, deals with anything. Pointed at something and it goes away.
So what you expect from the blue-black player here is, or what he wants is a Wrath effect or something to deal with the Hydra. There is one in Christian's sideboard.
Okay.
In Bontu's Last Reckoning. That would be able to deal with the Bristling Hydra and Rishkar. But he didn't play. He has maybe one more turn.
So Kowalski is going to cycle away a land here. Both players seem to have pretty full grips. And I can see Zybold has got a couple of counter spells to work with, a Disallow and a Dispel.
A Torrential Gearhulk will also be fine to block the Hydra right now because he only has 6 energy.
Does he have a graveyard, though?
I don't know if it's a graveyard or if it's exiled.
It looks like it. I mean, it's the classic turn to the side above your library there that would indicate that those cards have been exiled, but we're not exactly sure how that would have happened just yet.
Oh, Vraska's Contempt.
Okay. All right. There seems to be quite a few cards in exile, however. Zybold.
Vraska's Contempt. Oh, yeah, so they are exiled.
Okay.
But now he cannot play the Gearhulk.
No.
He doesn't have the mana.
Okay, so he will take the spanking from this Hydra, by the look of things. Obviously, Vraska's Contempt not doing too much against a Bristling Hydra, especially with a nice stocked energy pool here like Kowalski's. So what can Kowalski get it done? How can he get it done here? Not going to be able to push through lethal this turn, you would think.
That's 13 life is a lot.
It is.
Especially considering Christian has counterspelled in hand. He has a Disallow. He has at least one.
In comes the Hydra now.
It's only for 4. Kowalski
6
is
mana.
keeping his energy in stock just to threaten hexproof.
Well, yeah, because it would require quite a number of removal spells here for this Hydra to actually bite the dust. And we're going to see now a Walking Ballista for 3. So that is a nice way to pressure Zybold's life total, but of course he is going to have a response in the form of Essence Scatter.
Cheap way to deal with the Ballista. So now Torrential... Christian is drawing live with Torrential Gearhulk because he can't deal with the Hydra.
I think Essence Scatter is one of the secretly the best cards in Standard.
Is it?
I really think it is. There are so many... If you think about a card like Vraska's Contempt as a 4-mana instant speed removal spell, being the premium card, Essence Scatter just does exactly the same thing for 2 mana less. There are so many creature cards that you cannot afford to let enter the battlefield.
Scarab God,
Hazoret,
Bristling Hydra, Torrential Gearhulk.
Torrential Gearhulk, and I mean even if you're trading an Arncrop Crasher, if you're trading an Earthshaker Kenra for an Essence Scatter, you're happy. Vraska's Contempt, I mean, sure, it gains you some life and it can do some work, especially against gods and what have you. But Essence Scatter just answers all of these questions straight away. I think it's actually...
It's the old debate between counter spells and removals.
Well, the thing is, Doomblades these days cost 4 mana. Essence Scatter still costs 2. I think this card is really, really good, and I think people should be playing more of it.
Doesn't do much on an empty board.
Doesn't do much on an empty board, but it helps to keep it empty. It helps to keep it empty. And yeah, I mean, you don't get any life off it, but also you don't get hit for 5 if you can't cast the 4 mana to exile the Hazoret as soon as it's played. I like seeing it in blue-black mid-range. I think it's fantastic in that deck as well as a 2 of or as a 3 of. Keeping the board on your side of things. Kowalski looks like he's doing some quick mathematics here, trying to figure out exactly how he can get Zybold dead. Probably will involve an attack with that Bristling Hydra. Oh, hello! Look at this.
He has an Oasis in hand. 2+3/3 the Hydra.
So unless Zybold has 2 removal spells,
or a blocker,
this could be troublesome here for Zybold. who's going to be
Oasis.
putting a lot of pressure here. Hashep Oasis. So sacrifice this, and this Hydra now.
Hexproof. And
8 power, and it's a disallow.
Yeah.
Okay, so disallow on the activated ability of the Hashep Oasis is going to mean that that ability will do nothing, and instead, the Hydra is going to come across for just 5.
That's a line you often forget. The counter activated ability.
Yeah. Yeah, disallow counters anything. Counters anything at all.
Because it's so wide, you can do so many different things that sometimes you just forget about it.
Zybolt now down to 4, drawing 2 cards with the Hieroglyphic Illumination, and he's going to have to find a way to pull himself back into this. Because that was a tidy little play there, kept himself in the game, of course, but is it going to be enough? He needs a way to stabilize. He needs a way to
Was it the end of
lock
turn?
down the board.
Was it the end of turn? It was, right?
The Hieroglyphic Illumination?
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Okay.
Almost certainly.
Just making sure. Cycle, yep.
Cycle another Illumination here, so 3 fresh cards off the top.
Yeah, Gearhulk is still the card he wants.
So, another land now in a Drowned Catacombs. And we'll see what he can do with all this mana that he's put together. All this mana, nowhere to go. What can he find? Essence Scatter in hand.
Does he have enough to play Glimmer of Genius and Gearhulk if he draws one?
He's got 2 copies of Vraska's Contempt as well.
Well, how good would the Essence Scatter would be here?
Well, it'd be about as good as the those Vraska's Contempt.
Actually, Vraska's Contempt is better because he can play 2.
Oh, you can double. Yeah. Okay, all right. I take your point.
So double Essence Scatter here.
Okay, Essence Scatter is garbage. Essence Scatter is terrible. 3 copies in the bin.
Yep.
There we go.
He's going to empty Kowalski's energy pool.
So Kowalski now with that somewhat greedy play before, going for the kill with the Hashep Oasis, and has been punished for it now. So Zybolt does force that energy reserve to be emptied.
And yeah, he wouldn't have had the mana to do the same thing, to do Vraska's Contempt again, and counter the second ability from the Hydra.
So Kowalski has kind of walked into a trap of his own making here, unfortunately for him. I mean, obviously he didn't have all the information on hand, but Vraska's Contempt will be able to clean up this Bristling Hydra very quickly here, you would think. Not sure what the delay is for Zybolt here. There seems to be only one correct choice to be made.
And he would go up to 6 life, which puts him out of reach of Working Ballista.
Zybolt finally realizes, oh yes, this second one is... oh no, okay, it's going to be something different.
Good.
It's going to be a disallow instead on the activation there.
Oh, and then he has another Essence Scatter in hand, I think.
Yeah, see?
Counter the... Oh, yeah.
Essence Scatter, so good. I mean, still would have worked. He still would have had enough mana for the Essence Scatter either way. But this means that Vraska's Contempt is a nice insurance policy.
That's right.
2 mana here for Kowalski. What could it be? Serve the Conduit, perhaps?
Constrictor.
Constrictor.
Siphoner.
It's going to be the Constrictor. So, is Zybolt interested in tussling with this snake? Or is it going to go back to the foul pit from which it arose? We'll see.
It's probably the safest creature he can play. I mean, Christian is happy to see the snake.
All right, well,
I think.
Winding Constrictor hits the battlefield. And Kowalski now, is this going to be another Walking Ballista here? So this is Ballista for 4. And that is going to be it. That is going to be an Essence Scatter with the best card in Standard. The best card in Magic, Essence Scatter, taking care of the Walking Ballista. Sorry, second best, Goblin Law, number 1.
I think the combination of Essence Scatter and Vraska's Contempt is best.
It's pretty potent.
Yeah.
Having both of them together. And now a way to deal with the snake with double Moment of Craving. Oh, Christian Zybolt.
Yum.
He craves that...
the snake.
He craves that crunchy snake.
Yummy.
Oh, yeah. I actually met a guy in summer when I was in Australia. I met a guy, this is not a joke, named Bruno, who was walking from Thredbo to Canberra, who ate a snake. He came across it in the Australian outback. He chopped its head off with a machete, and he cooked it on his fire for that dinner. It was insane.
Was it a moment of craving?
He certainly had a moment of craving. He wanted that. You know what he said as well, which was very disappointing. When I said, oh, what did it taste like? You know what he said? Tastes like chicken.
Yeah.
Everything tastes like chicken. Anyway, Bruno, if you're watching, I hope you got to Canberra safely and the next snake didn't chop your head off with a machete. Kowalski now. He's still got a nice full grip, and that's what you want to be. That's where you want to be.
Oh, you want to be... I think you want to be on the Christian side here.
Mm.
You want to be like every card is more relevant. If you draw a draw spell, if you draw a Glimmer,
Sure, I think Seibolt's done a great job of stabilizing, but I don't think Kowalski's out of it just yet.
Actually, he's not playing Glimmer. Never mind. He's playing Elimination instead.
So Seibolt continues to deploy lands, only down to 2 cards in hand, however. This Servant of the Conduit is not much of a threat just yet here.
Oh, no, you want to be... yeah, Greg has a lot more cards. Never mind. I didn't see how many cards.
Yeah, he's
Christian
got
has. Yeah, he has a
got
bunch
a
of cards.
bunch. I think one of them is Duress as well.
Yeah. So whenever he wants to play...
How has he got so many cards? He's got 6 cards in hand. And Seibolt's the one who's been casting Hieroglyphic Elimination.
It's probably because he's drawing only lands. Christian is playing all the lands. And he wasted like 2 cards for 1 every time.
Yeah, that's true.
So for the snake, there's 2 moments of craving. For the Hydra, it was disallow and Rescue Contempt.
Seibolt negates that Duress there, and now it's going to be Servant of the Conduit coming across.
Yeah, Greg is in full control actually.
Kowalski's in a great spot,
Oh,
and that's
wow.
and this is it. You
Carnage
just need
Tyrant.
You just need cards, cards and cards and cards. 6 mana Carnage Tyrant.
How about your Essence Scatter here?
That'd be pretty good.
How about your Rescue Contempt here?
Also amazing in this situation because it's a creature, and both of those cards deal with creatures, except when they can't be countered and are hexproof. So this 7/6 Trampler is really going to put Seibolt to the test here. Kowalski is playing 2 of these in the board, and this is the matchup where they really shine, because again, this is the pretty emblematic of the black-blue control decks. They don't have a lot of hard removal, and Kowalski now
Blossoming Defense on the...
on the Servant of the Conduit, which means that Seibolt isn't going to be able to gain any life, and that is that here for Kowalski, stealing a win 2-0 against Christian Seibolt. So the dream team of Kowalski, User, and Saturek continues its undefeated run so far, as we welcome you back to the booth here at the Pro Show at GP Madrid. My name's Riley Knight, of course, joined by Raphael Levy. And we certainly saw some fireworks in the feature match area this round. I mean,
Fire Blast too.
we saw some fireworks and some Fire Blast. That's very true. Legacy Burn. I'm very interested to see if this is a deck that is going to stick around. It is one of the more, I guess, accessible decks in the format. It's something that is a little easy to put together than many of the other lists in Legacy. But what really interests me there is Tron beating Ad Nauseam 2-1.
Yeah, we missed the last game. Maybe Daniel just fizzled again.
Yeah, it could be the way that it went there, but that's quite a turn up for the books there. And of course, at the end of the day, we saw Seibolt going down in straight sets to Gregor Kowalski. We'll check back in with these teams later on, my friends, but right now we've got to go to a break. Stick around, because on the other side of it, more Magic's coming your way from GP Madrid. We'll see you back here very soon. as we get players seated and ready for round number 4, in the meantime, we are going to be able to check in with some of the action that took place previously in round number 3. So let's get to it and see how things shook out in our backup table here. So as I mentioned already, this is a replay. This is a replay that has already taken place, but we are all the same going to be able to enjoy a little bit of bonus extra cheeky magic here before we get on with the next round. We've got Sjoblom, should have had a practice at that before I just tried to raw dog it there like that. Quizma and Hooker playing up against Santos, Carvalho, and Goburn. And we're getting stuck in here with Standard. I haven't seen Dusk Legion Zealot too often in Constructed here, Raph.
It's played in White-Black Vampires.
Mm-hmm.
It's played in the Blue-Black Creature decks. Blue-Black Control Creature decks. It's a good way to get some extra value from Scarab God.
Yeah, for sure. Bring it back as a 4/4 that gains that draws a card. Yeah. It's a nice piece of technology there.
So let's catch up a little bit on this game. We have Bernardo with a lot of stuff, a lot of creatures. He has a Liliana, and on the left side, Max Sjoblom with well, pretty much behind here, with only 4 lands against Bernardo's 6, and an empty board, pretty much.
This is
just a search.
This is not where you want to be as a control player. You want all the lands that you can get your hands on, and right now Bernardo Santos is just firing on all cylinders. He's got more creatures, he's got more lands, he's having a much, much better time, it has to be said here, than Max Sjoblom.
He's scrying with the search for Ascanta.
Which is flipping regardless here.
Oh, he can choose not to.
Oh, sure. He can, if he really wants to, he can choose not to, as we have a closer look at Liliana Death's Majesty. Another interesting choice here. 2 copies of it in the deck of Bernardo Santos, who, I have to say, has... did you ever read Babar?
What?
Babar, the King of the Elephants?
Yeah.
The book there?
What about him?
Bernardo Santos's handwriting looks exactly like the writing in the Babar books. It is beautiful.
Okay.
It really, really does. So Sjoblom is going to be able to flip that search for his Canter, which means he's going to have access to a few more lands. He's going to catch up, actually. 6 lands this turn.
Bernardo has a Field of Ruins to deal with Ascanta.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he has something else to do this turn, but that's definitely an option.
So Fatal Push now on the Glensleeve Siphoner, looking to contain any extra cards drawn by Santos, who does have enough energy, or would have had enough energy to activate the 2/1 there.
Gonti sitting on the card from Max's deck.
And a Torrential Gearhulk now for Santos.
Just a 5/6.
Just a 5/6. That Fatal Push in the bin not doing too much in the face of Sjoblom's empty board. But he does have the answer. He's got a couple of copies of Disallow, but of course the best card in Magic, it is Essence Scatter, taking care of the 5/6. And this is where that card is so much better than Vraska's Contempt.
This was mostly to tap Max's lands end of turn, so we didn't have an activation from Ascanta.
So in come the Clowns here, 5 damage for Sjoblom, who I think is being knocked down to 5 now. He's really under siege. Liliana upstairs, 2 cards in the bin, and a 2/2 zombie.
I really like Liliana. I like that Liliana. I like the fact that it's just a better format of Zombify. We didn't have so many Reanimator spells lately.
No. I mean, really, Reanimation hasn't been a tier 1 as a standard strategy since what? Unburial Rites?
There were some more fringe cards that would reanimate for 5 mana, but that's exactly what Liliana does, plus extra stuff.
So Santos now. He's thinking long and hard about how he wants to proceed. Got those mismatched full-out basics, which is just a real conundrum here. Sjoblom, on the other hand, beautiful beta basics.
You know how I do for my basic lands at the PT.
What do you do?
I just look for in the
land bin.
in the land box.
You're a monster. You're a monster. You're history's greatest monster. So Disallow now on the Scarab God. And so it looks like Sjoblom's getting a bit of a free roll now with this search for his Canter, because that Field of Ruin wasn't activated once again. Swamp off the top now for Sjoblom.
The problem is Bernardo is threatening to bring back the Scarab God during his turn with Liliana and activate it right away on I don't know, a Gearhulk, a Gonti. It'd be pretty bad because the Gonti would net him another card from Max's deck. You tend to forget about this card.
Mm.
Like, it's there. Like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. But then you realize, oh, that's actually a card from my deck.
Yeah.
And since my deck is probably good, it's definitely good.
It's definitely good. It's a good card. I'm playing the best cards.
Card, yeah. Like, oh, my opponent only has 4 cards, but he has one of the best cards of my deck in his.
Yeah, it's not often that the old Gonti gives you a whiffsky, and you do usually come up trumps with the goods. And Shoblom may be in a position to... I mean, yeah, again, you kind of forget about it in the same way that you forget that it has Death Touch and attack with a 6/6 and it dies.
Hey, do you do that?
Look, we don't have to get into it, all right? Let's focus on the match in front of us here, Raf. Chucking around all sorts of wild accusations, mate.
So Liliana is reanimating.
I may have attacked into
Scarab
it. I may have attacked into a
okay.
Death Touch creature.
just making sure.
I may have done that a couple of times.
And Max is scooping this, I think. Yep.
That's enough there for Shoblom as Santos takes out game number 1. A rather convincing strategy or performance from him there, you have to say. On the back of, I mean, a start that looked to be a little bit of a stumble there from Max Shoblom.
Yeah, you want to have all your lands in play. Oh, look at this. Oh, I like this.
Oh, here we go. Matty Kuzma and Marcio Carvalho. I can just sit back and chill out for a little bit here because we're playing the Raphael Levy deck here.
Oh, it's Dredge against MARDU Pyromancer. So what's going on? Let's catch up a little bit. We have 2 Narcomoebas and a Bloodghast, and prized amalgams have been extracted surgically.
So what's going on, generally speaking, with this Dredge deck? Can you because you play this deck a ton. Can you give us a bit of an overview of what it tries to do?
So Matty is milling his deck away to find the pieces that will deal damage to his opponent. And in these pieces, you have Narcomoeba. It's a free 1/1 flyer. When you mill it, you can just put it into play. You have a Bloodghast. That's a 2/1. With Landfall, when you play a land, if it's in your graveyard, it comes back into play. And if your opponent has 10 life or less, it has a haste. And if you have prized amalgam in your graveyard, every time you bring a creature back into play, it comes along for the ride.
So Carvalho obviously has dealt with the 3/3 here, but this is the prized amalgam was one of the cards that really put Dredge back on the map, in addition to, of course, the unbanning of Golgari Grave Troll, which once again has departed the format.
And the other way to deal damage is to play Life from the Loam, get lands back from your graveyard, increase your hand size, and cast Conflagrate from your graveyard. So with Flashback, red X, discard X card, deal X damage to whatever you want.
Whatever you want. And it can generally deal upwards of, like 6-7 damage once you've got a nice full grip. And that's how it goes there. These Lingering Soul tokens, Hustling and Bustling. Kuzma takes another 2. Carvalho, of course, playing Mardu Pyromancer, a deck that's really been propelled into the stratosphere. I mean, in the weeks leading up to the last Pro Tour, of course, it did pretty well. A couple of top GP finishes there in the hands of, many players around the world. For example, Galan Falakfasa. Yeah. But right now, after Jerry Thompson's great finish at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan, it's a really good choice for players moving forward. So
in this matchup, it feels like if Marcio does not have a hate card, as in Late Out of the Void or mostly Late Out of the Void, it becomes really hard for him to win because he doesn't really have the tools to stop the Dredge player from going off. And now you see he has 4 Narcomoebas and Bloodghast that are going to go, maybe not all the way, but they're going to do a lot of damage. And then Mati is going to be able to conflagrate Marcio away.
Carvalho is sitting on a Collective Brutality, a Bedlam Reveler, another mystery card hanging out the back of his hand there. Here's a Life from the Loam.
So getting 3 of the lands from the graveyard.
Mountain,
and
Mountain.
He's going to cast a Conflagrate here. I think for probably everything.
Just discard, just bin the hand there?
Yeah.
All right.
Is there another Bloodghast in the graveyard? Oh, I think there is. So how many cards? Because now Mati has the choice between killing the spirits and putting everything on Marcio's face to put him down to 10, and then being able to attack with the Bloodghast that would come back from the graveyard, because it would gain haste and therefore would be able to deal 2 more damage.
But he has to hold on to... so he plays a land.
He plays a land, gets the... I think he has at least...
Yep.
Let's see how many cards he has in hand.
1 Bloodghast back.
1, 2, 3.
Looks like I've got 7 cards.
7 or 8?
7.
If it's 7, then there's no point in putting everything in Martial's face. So just 1. I think killing everything is probably the right play.
So Conflagrate can be divided?
It can be divided into as many targets you want.
Okay. So we're going to see...
No, he does have 8 cards.
Oh, he does have 8 cards.
So he can target Martial with all the... Like for 8, so he goes down to 10. And he actually has lethal in play. Oh no, he doesn't have lethal because one of the Narcomoeba just got back. Just arrived. So it would have 9 damage. That's right.
Okay.
So it would be 9. He doesn't have to chump with Young Pyromancer, but he would be on 1 if he doesn't have a bolt.
Looks like he's got a lightning bolt in hand, however. He's got an instant at least, so that is going to mess up the maths a little bit here, as a lightning bolt is going to push through some damage and also generate a 1/1 here, a nice blocker here for the Young Pyromancer.
So this is not a lost cause for Martial, because if he survives this turn and he plays, for example, the 3/4.
The Bedlam Reveler.
Bedlam Reveler, yes. He can generate enough tokens to block the blood gas for next turns, and maybe find a way to exile them with another extraction, for example, and make more tokens.
So Narcomoeba eats a lightning bolt. Carvalho down to 4 after a Bloodghast is blocked by a 1/1 token here.
So what happened
Lightning
to the ball?
Helix in hand here for Carvalho. Looks like he's pretty heavy on the white.
He might be. Can he get back from this game? Is Matty on 16 or 13? What happened to the bolt?
The bolt hit a Narcomoeba.
An Narcomoeba. Okay, Rafa. Yeah, right.
So this is interesting from Carvalho, because often these lists don't play all that many white cards. Usually the white is just for Lingering Souls, but here it looks like 2 copies of Lightning Helix in the main deck of Carvalho, in addition to some other white cards in the board, for example, Kumbal, the console of allocation there.
He's not actually in that of a bad shape.
No.
He is basically what Mighty's going to do now is going to load up on land to charge another Conflagrate.
So maybe Dredge Life from the Loam.
Yeah, he's going to dredge Life from the Loam. He's going to Faceless Looting to get more of the Conflagrate in the graveyard and be able to cast it like in 2 turns. Because I don't think Martial is attacking anytime soon.
No. No, and he can put up the blocks, of course. Lingering Souls in the graveyard as well to shore up that Air Force, in addition to that Lightning Helix, which will offer him a little bit of a buffer for that life total.
Matty is just going to send his Bloodghasts. He's going to send them. They're going to trade for tokens, but that's the time he needs to get the second Conflagrate online.
So Collective Brutality, it looks like we're doing the old Drain You mode as well, with an Elemental.
All right, so he chose another path, the path of attacking. That's a line I didn't think of, but that could actually work. So he's on 14. He's going to take 4 damage, 10, 7 with the Lightning Helix, and Martial would be on 9 with 2 blockers.
Not too bad. Not too shabby, it has to be said. Carvalho finds a way forward now, with that Collective Brutality being a decisive play for him. But are we going to see an attack here?
It's probably the only winning line, too, because waiting is not winning. Waiting is not an option, because we see Mati can dredge enough times to get there with... Oh, there was another there was another Lingering Souls in the graveyard, so it's more creatures. Oh, there's a game here.
Plenty of blockers in the way now for Marcio Carvalho, as Matty Quizma is going to have to work very hard to push through those final points of damage. He's got Carvalho down to 6, so it's all about what he can find in terms of... I mean, what are the key cards that are going to push him towards a victory here? Is it all about Conflagrate?
For Mati, yeah, I think so. I think Mati, last turn, he made a crucial mistake.
Okay.
That's what I'm not sure, but I could say that not killing the Pyromancer and the tokens and going for the face might have been just a bad investment.
Because things have really spiraled out of control since then.
Because imagine the board with no Elemental or just 1 and 2 less Spirits. That would be a different... And Martial would be on 10. but he would have all his creatures. So,
So
it would be a different game state.
Quizma is dredging life from the loam now.
Okay, well that's
And a Bloodghast hits the bin.
not bad.
That's not bad. Means more pressure here.
Yeah.
So Quizma is going to play this life from the loam now. Gets back. Looks like exactly the same lands as last time. That's right.
Yeah.
Blood Crypt, stomping around in a mountain.
So now, what he can do is play the mountain, play lootings, play faceless looting, to get both of his life from the loam in his hand. So next turn he's able to do double life from the loam and conflict it for 5. Actually for 6 because he does another card.
And Quizma now. He's going to play a land,
So-
bring back those Bloodghasts.
So that's not what he's doing.
So Bloodghasts numbers 3 and 4. Oh, if only they were Master Biomancers. Or is it Biovisionaries? One of the two.
What?
And another Conflagrate, discarding 2 to take care of 2
Oh,
spirits.
he has the conflagrates in the graveyard. Oh, I
So
didn't
now-
see them. I thought they were other cards.
Big attack from Quizma here. And Carvalho with only 2 blockers remaining. Lines up the only block that he really can. He's going to fall to 1 here. Carvalho does have a Lightning Helix in hand to buffer that life total, but Quizma taking a very aggressive line here, Raf.
Is he... No. So it would be 3 damage plus 3, so it's 6. Now there's nothing that deals 5 damage.
Carvalho on 1. Thoughtseize in hand, an absolute stone cold blank. He has a Lightning Helix as well to buffer his life total at least somewhat, but Quizma, all he needs to do is draw a land or play a land which he's guaranteed to do with a life from the loam. Quizma here, poised to take out this game and indeed this match between him and Carvalho. We can see things locked up on our back table there. Jori Hucker and Luis Goburn on 1 and 1. Sherblom and Bernardo Santos 0 and 1 in favor of Santos here. But is Quizma going to be able to push through the final points? Cast life from the loam.
Yeah, it wouldn't actually matter now how many cards he has in his deck because the Bloodghast are going to be too much.
Only 6 cards left in his library, but it should be enough here.
Especially, he has another Conflagrate in the graveyard. I hadn't seen the Conflagrate in his graveyard. So he can just Conflagrate for 1.
So there's the Conflagrate. Discard 2, just for good measure.
Yeah, because, he's playing around the Lightning Helix.
So 1 and 1. Carvalho now, priced into playing that Lightning Helix. And that's going to keep him in the black at least. He's going to go to 2 life, but then, of course, those Bloodghasts is going to overwhelm him here. Quizma, with 1 card remaining, can bring back those multiple copies of Bloodghast, and this could be it. This could be it here. Nakamiba down.
The thing is, there's no path to victory for Marcio here. He cannot come back from this. He can mill Mati, but that's probably his only win condition here.
Lands bring back the Bloodghast. They are tapped and attacking, and Carvalho goes down in straight sets here to Mati Quizma. And that means that the fellas on the left-hand side of your screen pick up an early game win here. And I'm just receiving intelligence right now that this, in fact, we are very close to, in fact, ending the entire match because it looks like Jori Hucker is just about to win his game against Luis Goburn. We're going to try to get across in time to see that one end, but it doesn't look like we may in fact get there. It looks like Hucker, yes, indeed, has won against Luis Goburn. So that is that. It looks like the players on the left-hand side of your screen have taken it out for Team Rock and Roll, so congratulations to them. You're watching the Pro Show, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Riley Knight. I'm joined, of course, by Raphael Levy. But we are about to step out of the booth for just a few short moments, and you'll be joined once again by Tim and Moraine. So don't go anywhere. Plenty more action coming your way from GP Madrid. We've got to go to a break now, but on the other side of it, we'll see you back for more magic from GP Madrid.